Okay, welcome everybody. I'm really excited to have Dr. Fatta Nahab, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, joining us today, who's going to be speaking about the uh, neuro trial, Neulark trial, I'm sorry, for people with the LRRK2 gene mutation. And we're going to have lots of fun today because it's a small group. We're going to have a chance for really intimate conversation after the presentation. So let me introduce Dr. Nahab. He is a board-certified neurologist and movement disorder specialist with over 20 years of experience bridging clinical needs with technological advancements in digital health technologies. He has conducted novel research across all phases of development in various indications, including Parkinson's disease, essential tremor, and dystonia. In addition, he's led the development of digital technologies for use as objective measures of neurological disorders to enhance the efficiency of clinical development and patient care. It's a lot. In his current role at Neuron 23, Dr. Nahab leads the LRRK2 inhibitor phase 2 clinical development program for the development of a disease-modifying treatment for Parkinson's disease. And prior to Neuron 23, he was the head of movement disorder science at Biogen Digital Health. So welcome. Let's take off our screen.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, ladies, and I saw some gentlemen as well. It's great to be with you, and my colleague Shilpa Rao is joining us as well. So Shilpa is waving. Sharon, thank you for the introduction. The one thing I will tell you right up front is this trial is not just for people with LRRK2 mutations, and I'd like to spend a few minutes going together on the material, the information about the study, and then we'll have the opportunity at the end of the presentation to have you all ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. So let me share my screen, and I just want to make sure you all are able to see it. The title of this trial we're going to be talking about is Neulark, and this is a phase 2 study that is being conducted by our company Neuron 23. Just a few disclaimers up front. This is a presentation about the information regarding the trial, but it's not going to replace the detailed information you might get by talking to a clinical trial site. And so we're happy to answer more general questions, but if there are more detailed questions regarding the protocol itself or what we're doing within the study, that would be advised to take place at a clinical trial site. The investigational drug that is going to be tested in this trial is called NEU 411. It is not approved by the FDA or any other regulatory authority to treat Parkinson's right now. Participation in clinical trials is always voluntary, and all of the decisions regarding enrollment should be made by you in consultation with your loved ones, your healthcare providers, and others. And so this presentation is not intended to provide you with medical advice or any sort of a recommendation to participate in the study. This is really informational. So let's get started. Um, I know this is a bright, educated bunch. You already know there are over 10 million people in the world that live with Parkinson's disease. Um, Most of you probably also know that there is no single cause of Parkinson's, and it makes intuitive sense then that if there's no single cause, there's probably not going to be a single treatment that is going to slow or stop the disease progression. Now, obviously, you might say to yourself, but there's a lot of medications on the market right now that are going to be effective for everybody. And that's true because the medications that are currently available are treating the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. But in terms of developing therapies, which we have none currently, that can slow or stop the disease progression, that is probably going to need to be more of a targeted effort. Now, the LRRK2 gene is something that was discovered going back to 2004. So it's been over 20 years. And this was found to be the most frequent genetic cause of Parkinson's disease. In family histories of Parkinson's disease, it affects about 4 to 5% of individuals. And then even in people without a family history, it affects 1 to 2% of the general population. But this is where the story gets to be a little bit confusing. And most people, when they hear about a genetic cause of Parkinson's disease, immediately say, well, I don't have a family history, so I must not be included in this situation. And that is true from a traditional, maybe a little bit more outdated understanding of genetics, where the only times genes can cause disease is when there are disease mutations. And that's the example here in this bullet that's provided. But we now understand that genes or changes in the genetic signals can actually contribute to the risk of you developing it. What I'd like to tell you about here is a situation where genes around the LRRK2 mutations could also contribute to the development of Parkinson's disease. And that is present much more commonly across individuals than these very rare mutations. And that's really the population that we are going to study in this trial. Now, if the rare mutations, which occur most frequently in family members, are only about 4 to 5%, there are other what we call common variants in our genes that may not directly cause disease by itself, but they can influence things like the LRRK2 gene. And these more common variants are present in about 30% of all individuals with Parkinson's disease. And so when we combine the rare mutations that are more likely to be present in families with Parkinson's with these more common variants that we call LRRK2-driven Parkinson's disease together, now we're talking about maybe 1 in 3 individuals having LRRK2-driven Parkinson's disease. And from our perspective, it makes sense that this may be a unique population that we need to test for efficacy using a medication that could inhibit LRRK2. And so most people say, well, I've gotten genetic testing. I don't have the LRRK2 gene mutations. And so how do I know if I'm eligible? And I already told you that this is kind of a new field, a new area to identify these more common LRRK2 gene variants. And so Neuron 23 has developed a genetic test, which is referred to as a companion diagnostic or a CDX, that can identify whether you have LRRK2 driven genetic profile. And it's those individuals that are going to be eligible to participate in the Neulark trial because we estimate that individuals with LRRK2 overactivity are the ones that are going to be most likely to benefit from a LRRK2 inhibitor. And so it doesn't really matter whether you have a history of Parkinson's in your family or you've been tested and you don't have a LRRK2 gene mutation, because the companion diagnostic that we've developed identifies LRRK2 overactivity in many more people than we first knew. And so really the goals of the Neulark trial are to determine if we know that there is LRRK2 overactivity in individuals that are likely to develop Parkinson's disease, could an inhibitor of LRRK2, which is this investigational medication we're testing, NEU411, could NEU411 actually slow the progression of Parkinson's disease in individuals with this LRRK2-driven Parkinson's? And so, what the study is going to do, this is a phase 2 study, which means we're going to evaluate safety and tolerability in addition to evaluating efficacy. And one of the things that's a little bit unique in the study is we use a lot of technology, things like smartphones, where you're going to have to do daily app assessments. And you'll occasionally have to wear a smartwatch to monitor your symptoms. And these are intended to lower your burden to have to go to a clinical trial site more frequently, to have to deal with very long study visits, because we're basically monitoring your symptoms relatively continuously throughout the trial using these technologies. And so the duration of the study from when you first reach out and you determine whether you are eligible to the very end of the study when treatment would end, either with drug or placebo, would take approximately 67 weeks. And the trial is going to be running, it's already running in the US, and we are rolling it out to the UK and several countries in the European Union as well. In terms of basic eligibility for Neulark participation, we are currently enrolling individuals between the ages of 50 to 80, though we will probably be expanding that to 40 to 80 shortly, but that is not currently in place. You need a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease that's been made by a neurologist, and you need to have performed this genetic testing to determine whether you have LRRK2-driven Parkinson's disease. And then obviously, you need to be in pretty good health, not expected to require dopamine medications early on, at least in the study, and not needing to, have any sort of major surgeries coming up during the study duration that you're aware of, or planning to go on very long trips. And so that's at a high level what it would require to be eligible for Neulark. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, there are websites where you can learn more information. One is Neulark.com. Just remember not to type www.neulark.com, just type Neulark.com. Or you could go to clinicaltrials.gov, and I've got the study ID for you there. And then there's that QR code on the right side of the screen, which is up. If you open your smartphone camera and take a picture or click on that, it'll give you a direct link to the Neulark website that's listed on there. So there's a great deal of information that you can learn from the website. The website also provides a link to a genetic pre-screening study where you could enter some basic information, things like, do you have Parkinson's? What is your current age? Are you on dopamine medications? And if you're eligible based on those basic questions, then you are able to receive a saliva kit by mail that you can then provide a saliva sample in, return it back to the company, and within a probably 2 to 3 weeks time, you'd be able to know whether you have LRRK-driven Parkinson's or not, and are therefore eligible to be considered for participation in the new LRRK trial. I also have an email at the bottom, clinicaltrials@neuron23.com. If there are any questions after you review the information and you want to reach out to us directly, that link, the email address is available for you.